We are all set. Everyone is ready to go as we move on into Game 2 between Method NA and Buff War Nerf Rogue.
All right, let's do this again. Now, hopefully Buff War Nerf Rogue is not going to have that many deaths anymore as they do the same pull again on this very first start here, while Method NA chose to use the strat. Of course, none of these teams are going to change up their strategies. They're going to do the exact same thing, but this time around, hopefully with less deaths.
And I mean, both of the teams definitely had something big happen to them that they didn't want to have happen, right? We were talking about it so many times in that dungeon. You know, Buff War Nerf Rogue had this kind of death run thing happen at the start, and, you know, Shakib happened to have that mishap in the middle of the dungeon. So both of these teams are going to be looking at both of those pressure points, making sure nothing happens there that happened in the last dungeon.
Yeah, and this time around, Buff War Nerf Rogue seems to be doing a lot better with the bursting stacks here, as they didn't roll them at the very end, so no refresh on the bursting at all. Well done by them. Well, Method NA also popped their Bloodlust, of course, to do this other pull without the mobs that the Buff War Nerf Rogue pulled at the very start. But both of those teams are going to reach 20% trash after their trash pulls are done, and then they're going to pull it on top of the first boss.
And I want to say it looks like Method NA did a little bit better job of their sort of like no-tossing strategy that they planned on using. Only the Enforcers are left, so they have to make sure they're not kiting through any of the Sanguine left by. But, you know, they're all like maybe 10% health, so pretty clean execution from them. And, you know, they're kind of at the same point in the dungeon they were in the first run-through, where they're pulling the boss probably maybe 30 or 40 seconds ahead of Buff War Nerf Rogue.
Yeah, we see Method NA, of course, engaging the first boss, while Buff War Nerf Rogue, I mean, I'm not sure, because let's look at their pulls, right? Both of the teams are getting the 20% trash, but Method NA is doing it in one pull, while Buff War Nerf Rogue needs to do two separate pulls. So this is why they're slower here to start, and even though they didn't have any deaths this time around, they're still slower. So strategy-wise, Method NA just does have a better pull at the start here. So Method NA, they're on the first boss here. Captain Crack is on 66%, so they're definitely ahead at this point, as I mentioned before. But it's a tyrannical setting, so bosses do have a lot of HP, and bosses are going to take a long time. Wait, isn't it a fortified setting, as I mentioned before?
I don't think. Yeah, it actually is. I believe it is it's a fortified
right?
setting. I think we have the wrong graphic on there. That's fine. We see it at the top there. Fortified bursting, Sanguine reaping. That's perfect at the top. Sometimes it's a little messed up. There we go. Hey, we're good. Perfect. Nice. They are 30% ahead on the boss still, which is pretty important, even in a fortified setting, right? You don't want to be 30% behind on a boss. That's a pretty massive amount of HP. And, I mean, really, we're still so far ahead in the dungeon. The thing is, looking forward to Method NA, we have to make sure that they actually are able to not have that mistake happen in the middle of the dungeon specifically.
Yeah, so Buff War Nerf Rogue, again, they're 2% ahead, as you mentioned before. So because their pools were a little bit different here at the start, they are slightly ahead in trash, but it's not going to be making up for this 20 to 30% they're behind on the boss. Now, thankfully, both of those teams are playing cleaner this time around without any deaths so far. But again, on a fortified setting, this boss not as difficult at all, so as long as you don't get double, triple hits on, as you see Yoda actually dropping very low. So I guess I kind of jinxed it. As I said, this is an easy fight, and Yoda just almost goes down with one of those shots here as he drops low, but he did not proc his cheat death, so he still has one cheat death available to him. As they down Sky Captain Crack here, they're going to move on to the next trash. They are going to skip this Enforcer, as we've seen before. Now again, if they skip the Enforcer like they did the last time around, and we have a death without a Battle Rest come in, then Shakib can't really come back easily unless he has a Shadow Mouth or an invisible potion available to them. So hopefully we don't have the same thing happening again to Shakib.
And there we see the Shadow Modes go off at probably like 355-ish, so sorry, 335-ish. So they'll have that back two minutes later as well. So the thing is, Method NA killed the boss, you know, about 15 seconds slower. I believe they killed it at 3 minutes exactly in the previous dungeon. So it's a combination of two things at this point in the dungeon. Buff War Nerf Rogue didn't have their death run thing happen where they had several deaths and had to run back and finish off the rest of the trash. And Method NA is just going a little bit slower too. So the thing is, moving on, Method NA's execution should be better still. They're still ahead. They still have the better strategy as long as they're able to pull it off. That's really all it comes down to at this point.
We actually saw JB just running against a pillar there for a while with his speed potion up, but he did manage to trigger the event, and then he's going to come back. Now this time around, they're actually doing a little bit worse without JB, as they drop very low here from this trash pool, but JB is back at this point, so he should be able to recover, should be able to heal them all back up. Now this next pull is the pull that caused trouble for Method NA. So this time around, maybe they want to wait a little bit for JB to catch up on the heals, because again, Restorer is just one of those healers who needs to prepare for healing. So if he goes and triggers the event, and when he comes back, everyone is low HP, and they're already pulling another pack, then it's going to be hard for the healer to catch up and to heal everyone back up. But this time around, they waited a little bit when JB came back, made sure he pre-hots everybody, make sure everyone's full HP, and then they did this next pull. So this time around, they should be safer here.
A good job from Shahid there. He waited for 3 Sunders like every DPS should do. Must be all that classic WoW he's been playing lately. Good for him. They're able to deal with the AoE DPS here, no problem with the Unholy DK. You can see how much damage they were missing out on last time just by not having that Unholy DK there, and just how much cleaner the pull is able to be with that extra DPS to kind of, you know, trim everything down to the same HP. So without that mess up, without that hiccup, we've seen the rest of the strategy for the entire dungeon. They should be ahead. All they got to do is execute.
Definitely. Buff War Nerf Rogue did struggle a little bit with their bursting here on this pull, but they did manage to recover. They only have to finish up these last few mobs, but as you said, Method and A just ahead, 40%. They proc their Reaping. They are pulling the buffs here, while Buff War Nerf Rogue still needs to proc their Reaping Wave and do the buff. So Method and A definitely ahead here, and it's good to see that they are playing cleaner, and they keep a cool head while having these mistakes in the very first dungeon and having the remake, even though they were ahead, right? Method and A was ahead when this whole the issues started for Buff War Nerf Rogue. So it's good on them to be able to recover, making sure they have a clean run, and just perfect run so far by Method and A.
I mean, the funny thing is about the scenario, right, is because they don't know where the other team was, they probably were thinking, wow, thank God we got a remake. We made a huge mistake in that dungeon. So, you know, I don't know if it's going to be too much of a mental thing, but they definitely know that they made mistakes and they wanted to be cleaner this time around, which they have been. And they also made the added change of pulling the Reaping into the boss this time around, which they didn't do last time. So that's just going to be, you know, extra time on the board for them. In the last dungeon that we had, Buff War Nerf Rogue killed the boss when Method and A still had the boss, you know, 40-50%. If Method and A is able to get the boss down earlier, they're going to be probably a minute or two ahead in this dungeon.
Yeah, and here you can finally see just how much time mistakes like those cost you, right? Sometimes when you play a dungeon and you're plugging and you have one death, you feel like, whatever, you know, it's one death. It's not going to cost us that much time. But here, of course, when every single second counts and you see just how much faster they are this time around when they don't have Shahid dying, and we see Buff War Nerf Rogue actually losing one of their rogues and they do not have a battle rest available. This means that they're just going to have to foreman the rest of this fight, which should be possible, but you see everyone dropping very low from all the trash they pulled on top of the Reaping Wave as well.
Yeah, at this point when you only have 4 people alive, the danger of those tormented souls that cast those grave bolts goes up exponentially. Every single one of those grave bolts is 25% of your max HP, and usually it's okay because those are kind of spread out amongst a group of 5 people, but every time your group size goes down, the chances of those grave bolts all going on the same person goes up exponentially. So definitely really dangerous for them now. They are able to get the Reaping down, but like you mentioned, now they have to deal with the rest of the boss, 1 player down.
Yeah, and one thing to note here, bursting is one of those affixes that, of course, gets applied when you're out of combat, right? Because the mobs die, you're out of combat, but you still have the bursting. And one thing to note here is that you can actually heal the bursting away by sitting down and eating a fish feast, and you can also get the mana back. But every time the bursting ticks, it actually interrupts your eating. So we saw JB just spam clicking his fish feast, making sure he gets the mana back, which is something that definitely is important to know because, for example, when you trigger Reaping, and Reaping brings you into combat, and your healer is very low on mana, and then the bursting interrupts your eating, then that can be very dangerous, and that might be a reason why Loda was so low on mana the last time around when they engaged the boss. So you want to make sure that your healer is sitting down eating at the burstings away before you engage something if he's low on mana.
And we definitely saw a little bit of a safer thing coming out from Method and A there. JB didn't go down to deal with the pig while they were dealing with the trash pack. He just decided to go ahead and, you know, stick with the group and deal with the pig later. But we're probably going to see something similar from them, right? These teams kind of have their routes figured out, pre-planned in advance. Reaping Waves they've got figured out. They're going to Reaping Wave into Tortolum here. They're going to Reaping Wave into the boss with Bloodlust. It's all planned out in advance. They're probably not going to make too many major changes to their strategy. It's all about the execution. As long as they don't have any stupid deaths, they should be fine. But they do have that added, safety cushion of having a battle res available, and they also have yet another battle res available in about a minute 15 here.
Yeah, Buff War Nerf Rogue on 45% trash, so they're one whole Reaping Wave behind pretty much, but they're about to finish up this trash pack. But Method and A just doing so much better this time around. They are in Ludwig, they have their 60% Reaping Wave. Buff War Nerf Rogue just now finishing off the trash pack, moving on, using your shroud to get into the Ring of Booty. But Buff War Nerf Rogue also had a death here on the Monk going out on this trash pack. They had to use the last battle rest. Now they are going to have another battle rest available soon within a couple of seconds, but still just having deaths still here and there, just costing them time. 15 seconds now on the board compared to 0 deaths on Method NA. Just it seems like Buff War Nerf Rogue still just did not really improve that much compared to the last time around, and it shows. Method NA just far ahead at this point.
Yeah, and it's like we were talking about so many times, you know, near the end of that last dungeon, as we see once again, Buff War Nerf Rogue, just another bursting thing with the team going down. They will be able to release and kind of run back quickly, but it's going to be a full team wipe for them. They have that Council of Captains respawn point, but at this point, another full team wipe plus, you know, they have to re-pull all the trash they already pulled. They're out of this dungeon as long as Method NA plays clean. So it's like we were talking about earlier. Method NA's just strategy and execution has just been so much better throughout these entire dungeons.
Yeah, this was a very bad mistake by Buff War Nerf Rogue just because of bursting, right? Just the damage dealer is not controlling the damage really well. And if you think about it, that's what I was worried for Method NA, because they're the ones who play the DK. Buff War Nerf Rogue switched to the Rogue to not have this DK burst AoE, to not have the bursting stack really high. That's probably the main reason why they're not playing the DK. Because, of course, we talked about it before, bursting is just the damage dealer's job to make sure it doesn't get refreshed the very last second, to make sure it doesn't stack super high. And Method NA does have this DK with the burst AoE damage, so they should be the ones who get it really high and who get it rolling at the very last second. But Buff War Nerf Rogue are the ones who are dying to the bursting, who are not controlling the damage really well. And they have the setup with the double Rogue with the monks who can control their damage. So definitely a not very good bursting play, and play from the DPS coming out from Buff War Nerf Rogue. Method NA just doing a much better job.
And I mean, that's definitely just a huge DPS brain thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you can control your damage as a rogue, but when was the last time you saw a rogue click off Blade Flurry? It never happened. I'm guaranteeing you it probably never happened in this tournament, too. I'd be really surprised if it happened, actually, to be honest with you. But we're seeing similar strats, right? We're seeing, you know, 4th Reaping Wave, 80% Reaping Wave, plus Bloodlust, and a Throw Attack. Even though it's, you know, a fortified setting, it's just such a huge damage increase on this single target boss for the Unholy DK. Not to mention, it's also a little bit of a damage increase for the Rogue, too. So, I mean, you know, we're pretty much seeing what Method NA is capable of here. And, like, I want to call back once again to the 40K comparison. I believe their free hold time was just below 18 minutes. So, we're going to see, you know, we're probably going to see that 40K Method NA matchup later today. This will be a little bit of a preview of those two teams, you know, competing head-to-head.
Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, we've seen Method NA do 2 dungeons. I mean, we've seen them do this dungeon twice, but they had some small mistakes both in Metalog and the first time they did this freehold. But maybe this is just what they need for the warm-up, right? Because this is the second time they do a freehold, and they're doing so much better, so much cleaner. And let's be honest, when we talk about strategies, Method NA did have better strategies in both the dungeons, of course. So Method NA doing a really good job as long as they keep their head, like if they keep a cool head, and as long as they don't make these small mistakes, as we've seen them do, then they're definitely going to be the favorites here. We see them do so well, of course, in the caps as well, as they're the number 2 seed from the Western region, only Method U having more points than them. And they really need to perform, and they are at this point, as they're already downing Trothek here, while Buff War Nerf Rogue is still dealing with some of the trash, didn't even engage Trothek yet.
Yeah, they're definitely just massively ahead here. It's, you know, they're kind of just, you know, competing against themselves. This is a time trial at this point. They're just trying to go as fast as they possibly can without any mistakes. And, you know, honestly, we should keep talking about those you know, kind of nervy deaths that they have, because that's what I think I'm going to chalk it up to, honestly. Those are just stage nerves, right? When I was playing in the MDI last year as a player, I got to practice on stage because that was the first match of the day, and I have to say, being able to play on stage, being able to practice at the computers on stage, it definitely helps calm the nerves a little bit. So I'm not really surprised in their 3rd dungeon around that they're just playing clean. They're probably just getting comfortable.
Yeah, most definitely. It's also like a different setup. You have a different environment, different lights, so it's definitely, it needs some time to get used to, and it does feel like Method NA did get used to it now, as they have this clean run here, this clean freehold, and we again see the Shroud coming out from them as they will engage the last boss. And we haven't seen more from them last time around because we had the disease issue happening for Buff Warrior Nerf Rogue at this time, but they are going to engage the boss here, and they're most likely also going to deal with the last 20% of trash that they need while fighting the last boss, Harley and Swede. Now, one thing to note again, that they don't have their Bloodlust available as they used it for Trothak, so this can be dangerous for them as they fight trash plus the boss at the same time. And one thing to be very careful about is the Sanguine, of course, because you do not want to heal the boss at all.
This is a really weird kind of sort of extra thing that they've done here. They've pulled this trash very early on into the boss, which means they're going to have some Sanguine on the ground when they kill it with their sort of bombardment ability here. They're just kind of cutting off part of the dungeon. Now, it makes sense if they're going to instantly pull the boss into the big pack in the middle right after this and deal with that with the bombardment as well. But they probably want to wait until they do that at 70% when the boss starts targeting everyone in the group with all the abilities. Actually, sorry, 60% is when that happens. So, because they'll have so many more bombardments to hit the trash pack with.
Yeah, one more thing to note as well is though maybe they're choosing to do the trash a little bit more staggered because of the bursting. Because at 50%, not only does the boss do more damage with the bombardments through the trash, but also more damage to the group. Because everyone is just going to get the bombardment, which does damage even if you don't get hit by the explosion itself. You also get AoE damage. So maybe on top of having bursting on everybody and having the AoE damage, maybe they just choose to stagger it a little bit more, have some more trash at the start, and then pull some more trash in later, as they only need 10% more at this point. Because bursting is a very difficult affix, as we've seen Buffboy Nerf Rogue just struggle to it and had a full team wipe because of it.
Yeah, and of course we did just see Harlan Sweet pop over from phase 1 into phase 2 at 60%. Instead of only targeting one player with each of the abilities, he now targets everyone with all of his abilities, minus the tank, of course. The tank just gets meleeed in the face. So we see the bombardments go on all of the players, meaning there's 4 bombardments going out instead of 1, and that's what we saw 40K use earlier to deal with several trash packs, and we're probably going to see Method NA do something similar at the end of this boss fight just to deal with that last 10% trash percentage they need to get rid of.
Yeah, so the last 10% should not be a problem. It's the last thing they can really wipe to anymore at this point. But we see even JB just being in melee, just going in cat form, doing as much damage as possible, making sure, again, that they're as fast as possible. Now, I want to mention again that the teams do not know how far ahead or behind they are at this point. So Method NA, of course, have a good feeling because they have 0 deaths. So they should know that they're ahead. But you never know. Maybe Buffboy Nerf Rogue also has 0 deaths, or maybe they have a better strategy and they're just faster. So the nerfs just are there until the very end because they just don't know. Are we ahead? Are we behind? But Method NA just doing a really good job just dealing with Harlan Sweet at this point, and then they have to do the last 7%, which we're probably going to see at the side here with the Ravagers.
Yeah, the Ravagers are definitely going to be the last of the trash percentage here. They're just going to pull both of these trash packs. And yeah, they're just going to clear off the rest of their AO damage, let the Ravagers deal with the trash for them, and that's going to be a pretty impressive time from Method NA, just about a full minute faster than 40K's time, giving a little preview to the next series later today, as long as they're clean here with this trash pull. The Ravager does have to actually cast its ability for them to be able to get that off. But yeah, very clean dungeon from Method NA, no wipes in their second time around.
Yeah, very well done by Method NA as they finish up this last trash, or the painful motivation finishes off for them as they win with 0 deaths. So well done by Method NA here.
Performance even after the remake, doing better than they did previously and taking the series 2-0 there. Very good job by Method NA.